Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. Today's demonstration is this quick sketch of a winter scene looking across a field to some farm buildings. This is an imaginary scene, typical of the sort of views that I often see when I'm out and about near where I live. Snow scenes are ideal for demonstrating warm against cool and light against dark to create depth in your watercolours. I loosely sketched this scene on this small sheet of Saunders Waterford 300-gram paper. And here I'm just very loosely dropping in the sky using a very watery mix of cerulean blue. Just adding a little bit of water at the bottom of the sky, just to weaken it a little bit. I'm going to drop in some burnt sienna and some jadeite green for the initial wash on the background trees behind the buildings. All wet in wet, letting the colours run together. These are going to dry much lighter, so I can afford to be fairly strong with the mix, but it's still quite watery. Just vague shapes of some trees, letting the two colours mingle and blend together. Here I'm just adding a stronger mix of the burnt sienna for the foreground bush, which is by the gate. And the idea is that I can bring the image of the gate a little bit further forward to the eye by having stronger, more defined colours. Just putting a little bit of that cerulean blue mixed with a little bit of the burnt sienna to create a sort of a grey for the shadows on the snow. Shadows in snow tend to reflect the colour of the sky. Just using some of the blue and some of the burnt sienna to make a warm grey, just adding a little bit more blue, just for the shadow side of the buildings. Just switching to a smaller brush. I'm using a Skoda Perla brushes mainly for this painting. For those of you that are interested in the sort of brushes I use. Just adding a few more shadows to define the track that runs around the gateway to the main wall of the building. Just add a little bit of blue to the burnt sienna to darken it slightly, just to create sort of a ruddy brick colour for the buildings. Keeping it fairly vague, not too much detail. It's quite a way away to the viewer's eye. As I say, this is a completely made up image, so I'm kind of winging it as I go along. But that's part of the fun of watercolor, is just messing around and having some fun. But the main aim of this, as I said at the start, is just to demonstrate painting warm against cool and light against dark, to add depth to your paintings. It's a fairly basic principle of watercolor. As I go along, I'm darkening the hedge around that gateway and just strengthening the shapes to bring it forward in the painting. As you can see, the background trees have dried fairly light in colour and tone, so I'll be going over those shortly just to strengthen them a little bit more. I just want to bring those background trees a little bit more further forward in the painting, just to create a little bit more depth, leaving some of the lighter colour still visible. Just adds a bit of variety. Just using a rigger for the trunks of some of the foreground trees around this gateway and some of the branches. This is a mix of some cerulean blue and a touch of burnt sienna, just to create that grey for the trees and for the gate. I may have to darken the branches afterwards. It's always a good idea to go a little bit lighter if you're not sure of the tonal value you're going to achieve. You can always darken things. Much harder to lighten them. Just adding a little bit of shadow on the buildings under the eaves. Nothing too specific, keeping it vague. As I say, this is totally imaginary, so as I say, making it up as I go along, as I said before. Just dropping in a few darker tones for some shadows on this in this foreground bush. Just mixed up a little bit of cobalt blue with some burnt sienna for a slightly stronger warm grey for the spindly branches on the tree, just to suggest that they're there on these foreground trees. Again, this will dry much lighter, but it will bring it forward in the painting. These quick demonstration sketches that I do on this small scale are aimed at just helping people to just get the idea that you can just mess around with the watercolors and still achieve something quite satisfactory, just playing around. So it's all about having fun. Just strengthening that gate. I thought it looked a bit weak. Just darken the value with a little bit of brown. A few final touches here and there, just to add a little bit more depth to the painting, just bringing some of the areas forward with some darker tones. I think I'm pretty much finished. As you can see, the light against dark and the warm against cool creates a nice bit of depth in the sketch. So I hope you've learned something watching this. If you have, do give it a like. It always helps with YouTube. If you're not a subscriber, do subscribe and hit the notification bell. I do try to post once a week when I can. And once again, thanks for watching.